Well, Andy, a lot of people know you, but a lot of people don't know you too. You've had a very powerful, deep experience, and we're going to talk about you and what you went through.
I've been living in Dublin, 30 years, from a place called Blanchardstown in the north side. It was kind of like a rundown area, I suppose, council house. The place is famous for selling drugs. You know, my brother, I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. My eldest brother was chronic heroin addict. That's all there seemed to be. The range in Blanchardstown was drugs. And I looked up to my brother a lot, you know. We had a very close connection, me and my brother, because at a very young age, we ended up on the streets in town, you know, homeless for a long time. And for me, what I thought I had to do then was what my brother was doing, you know, and that was drugs. And I fell down that rabbit hole, and I ended up taking heroin and getting myself strung out and being homeless on the streets, waking up beside dead bodies and finding other dead bodies, people that I had known all my life, which had an amazing effect. And I say amazing because it's the things that helped shape me. But at the time, when I woke up beside somebody in the hostel and he was dead, 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, I ran out of the hostel, 8 o'clock in the morning, didn't know what to do. And you think you're next, you know? You really do. When you're living in every day to feed a habit and you feel your soul is dead, you know your number is coming up, you know? When you're waking up, when you're seeing so much death and what drugs have done, it was a choice I had to make, and that was to get out of Dublin, you know? And I got out of Dublin by the grace of God, and not much help from family or anything. It was something I had to want, because I burnt every bridge at the time where nobody could help me. Only myself could help me. I got myself clean. I got out of Dublin. I got myself clean. I moved down to the country, you know. And I finally got myself strong enough to come back to Dublin and back to my mum's house. And I finally did. I got back to my ma's house, and I started working, I started training, I found a whole new life for myself. And the only thing that I thought I was good at doing at the time was, because I was off drugs, that I wasn't an addict anymore, and that it was okay for me to sell drugs. You know, like, I'm not doing heroin, I'm not a junkie, but it's okay for me to sell weed and cocaine or whatever I could get my hands on. I'd sell it, because money had become my addiction then. And I was getting good at making money, you know, and I'm ashamed of how I made money, because I've hurt a lot of people. I've helped destroy families through what I did in selling drugs and what I did in making sure that I got me money, because money was my God, and people got hurt because of that. So I come from a very broken background in my own life. From being homeless at such a young age. I was just homeless so young, at the age of 14, that I couldn't just go to a hostel. And at the time I had to go to a Garda station every night, 7 o'clock, tell them I've no bed. And if they felt like it, they would ring the social workers. But then there's other nights, they'd leave you standing outside the Garda station for a social worker that's never gonna come to give you a bed. So it goes all the way, like, it was a long time I went through that. But I always knew when I was going through it that life just wasn't for me, that there was something better. And I think that was God trying to lead me out, telling me there's a better life for you than what you have here. And when I was living in Dublin, you know, everything started to go wrong for me towards the end of my drug life, you know, because I was losing friends. A friend, he got stabbed in the neck, and he was my best friend. He died, you know, and he was fueled with cocaine when he died, you know, and just the heat of the moment. And then my brother died. My brother died 13 years ago from a heroin overdose on a train to Knock, down to my mum's. And at that time, I absolutely had no faith. I had nothing. I was an empty shell. Even when my brother died, I wouldn't even pray. They were leaving him in the church, and I was like, why are you doing leaving him in the church? I was so angry because I didn't believe in God. I'm like, you're leaving him in an empty building, you know? That's the way I felt. And when he was buried, I was after going down to Kerry. We buried him down in Kerry, and I was still in the gang that I was in, and there was about 20 of us down in Kerry, you know? And I was drinking and drinking and drinking, but something broke inside me. And I kind of snapped a little bit. And it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, fueled with drinking drugs, crying, upset, grieving. And I made my way to my brother's grave, you know, and everybody was looking for me, didn't know where I was. But all I remember was waking up I was asleep on the grave. But when I was falling asleep in that grave, it was the first time I felt like I was actually speaking to God when I said, why, asking why. Why did they take him? Because it was the biggest loss that I had gone through. And that was the beginning of when I started to change. Because when I went back to Dublin from then, everything went wrong for me. Nothing was going right. I was breaking up with my girlfriend. I was getting myself into more trouble. Everything was going downhill. I was making enemies, and I felt like I had absolutely nothing left in Dublin, nothing. And it was time for me to leave. And that question of where do I go? I hadn't spoken to my mother for 14 years because of what we'd been through. And it was like the right time to just go down and try and connect with my mother again. And my plan was to go to Knock. Look, I'll go to Knock for a month, you know, I'll get myself together, and who knows where I'll go from there, you know. And I didn't realise, but I've been there ever since in Knock. It's 13 years now, but the transformation that I went through in Knock, it wasn't easy, you know. You don't just change, you know, and you don't just find God. Nothing happened out of thin air. So it was really down to me when I got to Knock. I really wanted to change, you know. I really believed, I really wanted to believe in something. I wanted to believe in something, but I'm not a fool. I'm not just going to believe in something that I have no clue about or that doesn't make sense to me logically, you know. So what I done was I started reading the Bible, but I was so ashamed that I locked myself into my bedroom so that my mother couldn't even walk in and see me reading the Bible when it was like I was doing something wrong, you know. But I was so hungry for the truth. I just wanted to know about God. And that was a whole journey for me of, you know, as they say, you can walk into a forest for 20 years, you know. You're not going to walk straight out. It takes time. You know, trying to overcome your past life. Because at the time I was like, I'm living in so much sin. Nothing. I'm like, how am I going to sort out all these problems, all these sins that I'm carrying? How can I knock them off? How is it going to stop? I'm like, I'm going to hell, you know? But through the grace of God, through the journey, being patient and understanding the process of coming out of that forest, you know, which it's going to take me a lifetime to come out of. Like, I'm not saying I'm out of the forest, but it's going to take time. But it is the time that God gives you that helps you. And for me, it's given me everything that I have. I was such a shell before I knew God. I had no courage, I had no confidence, I had no dignity, I had no self-respect. I had none of these things. I had none of them, you know. But God rebuilt me, you know. And through that, and through my experiences, it helps me to help others, you know.
I'm hearing a process where you came to terms with your own circumstances. You found God who helped you, but you helped yourself too by cooperating with God.
Yeah.
So tell us about the process.
When I first came back into the faith, obviously I was in Knock, and you think, you know, Knock being the national shrine for Ireland, it's the spiritual home for Ireland, that it's going to be a Catholic place, you know. So I was going there and I was putting my trust in to believing that that was the Catholic Church. And I was in there for a couple of years, and going through the process, my faith was getting stronger, and I came to a time where, like in my past, I'd broken my back, you know, and before I moved, and I always suffered with my back. And there was a time I was really suffering with severe sciatica, and I was on my back in Knock, and I was on my own. And I was there on my own, just lying in bed. It's all I could do. I couldn't move right and I couldn't move left. There was only a certain place I could feel reasonably kind of comfortable. And I was reading and I was really studying. All I could do was, you know, I was reading about the saints, and I fell in love with St. Francis of Assisi, you know, with the mission that God himself gave to St. Francis to rebuild his church. He never said reform it. He never said add anything. He said rebuild it. And how St. Francis rebuilt his church. You know, this is like nearly a thousand years, more than 1,000 years after Jesus. And I'm like, why can't we live like Jesus now? But St. Francis did it 1,000 years after him, and probably did more miracles than actual Jesus did himself. As Jesus says, people will come and do many more things than I did. And St. Francis was like that because he lived exactly the way Jesus did. And that had a massive effect on me, where I was, right, okay, I'm joining the Franciscans. You know, I want to become a Franciscan. I could see myself, I was looking up habits for myself to wear, you know. I was going to wear the brown habit, even though I was just going into the third order. I was taking that decision for myself because I just wanted to detach from the world. I don't want to say, do I look good in this top every day, or, you know, the complete detachment, because I had found in true detachment, I had more to give to God. All my pain that I was going through with my back, that was more than I could give to God than the lip service that I was trying to give him. It was through me suffering. And that's when I really found God. That's when you find God. When you can be in the midst of severe suffering and have a joy knowing that that's what God wants from you. Not everything else that I wanted to do, which I couldn't do. All I could do was please God, you know? So there was many lessons in that for me, and I didn't realize at the time that I was growing in such a way where God was sending me on a mission, because when I joined the Franciscans in the Novus Ordo, we'd meet once a month around the table, and all they'd do was have their little cup of tea, and they were all very elderly, and they'd go home again. But I thought I could rejuvenate everybody, because as you know me, I'm very kind of energetic. I want to, you know, we've got to do the mission, you know, and the mission is to save souls, and they just weren't doing it. And I could see, oh, Ting passed away last week, you know, the group is getting smaller. And that's the reality of the Novus Ordo and the Franciscans. They're not bringing new people in, and they're dying off. And after more study through St. Francis and the prophecies of St. Francis, and there's one particular prophecy of St. Francis where he said, you know, we will be given not a true pope, but a destroyer, and that anybody who holds on to the faith in these times will be called a schismatic and a rebel. And that made me go into further investigation, because I wanted the same mass that St. Francis had. You know, St. Francis, why can't I have that same mass that he had? the Trendendine Latin Mass. And that was my goal, was to get to the Trendendine Latin Mass. But little did I know, to get the Trendendine Latin Mass, you can't be in union with Rome. Because it's been banned for 60 years. They have the 1962 missal, but they don't have the Trendendine Latin Mass. So that caused a major, I was like, what do we do? I was learning, studying, and finally, I became a traditional Catholic, understanding that these new modern ways is not a way from God, and that can be traced all the way back to the Second Vatican Council, which is the key component for the New World Order to take the fire out of the Irish, because they couldn't defeat the Irish when they had the faith. So they had to take it away from them. And then they were subdued. And we're in this position that we're in now. So I was understanding all of this back then, And I was I was on my own, and I was going through, big wow moments where I couldn't express it to anybody. I was like, I need to tell the world this. I need to shout it off the top of the hills. I need to try and save souls. This truth can save a soul. They need to know that, before I was like, get into this boat, you'll be safe in the boat. This is, the ark of salvation, where now I'm like, no, you're in the wrong boat. But they're like, Andy, you were saying this is the boat. but that was being led in truth. That was my awakening to the New World Order. As much as I knew a lot of things were wrong since 9/11 and things like that, the real key for me was unraveling Vatican II and everything that went around it. And once I could understand that, and then I realized that, actually we don't have a true Pope right now, and it's not the first time in history this has happened, it just all made sense. And I became a traditional Catholic. And since then, I just haven't looked back. I really haven't. I got confirmed by a traditional bishop, and that was in America. And since then, your confirmation is the gifts of the Holy Ghost. So I have to give respect where it's due, because everything that I've done since then, it's been through God. That's where the courage that because there's things I've done, I look back and I go, how did I do it? How did I do it? But it came from God, and when I think of it, it comes from the faith. When the bishop confirmed me, and gave me that slap in the face to prepare me to suffer for Christ. And I took that serious, even when the bishop slapped me, I was like, he didn't slap me hard enough. Because I was really ready to suffer, And when you embrace that, the courage that God will give you, it's just immense. And not afraid of we were only saying this about other people's opinions, I'm so far past other people's opinions that the truth is all that matters. Not opinions, not people's feelings. But charity is a must, and this is where I try and hold the line with that, as in, I don't care about your feelings, but I love you. And I want to help you overcome your feelings, and not let your feelings dictate your decisions, leading people into error, But trying to say that to people these days, it's not easy, because, as Jesus says, if you feel like the world hates you, remember it hated me first. And right now, nobody will love the truth, And when you speak it, you're speaking it out of love for them, but they can't digest it. So the reaction comes. And we're in such a reaction these days, you don't have to go far for a reaction, There's people chasing us all over Ireland for a reaction, and they love to twist everything. They think they have something on you. They elevate that and twist it, and they try and hammer that into you like a crucifixion, like you deserved it, And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today, is to help try and rectify some of them little problems that have come up. When I hear the lawyers, when they're coming out and they're saying, it's mostly in the tweets or whatever, oh, Andy, you know, he's a woman beater and he bed up his ex with a Hoover and all this kind of thing. Like, it's happened multiple times, and it's only coming from one place, the left, you know. I always ignored it, and I'd probably just block them or whatever, and I'd never address it, simply because, one, they're lying, two, they're only trying to make me look bad, and three, it's absolutely none of their business about my personal life, whether they were right or wrong. And they were wrong, you know. But today I am going to talk about it, you know, and not just for people out there, but for me, you know, because I want to clear my name, you know, and it's the right time to do it. They tried to say that I beat up my wife when they don't know the real story of what I went through with her, because I've been fighting for my kids in the courts for 13 years, trying to see my kids. I've been an alienated father for 13 years. And any chance I got to see my kids, I took it. I basically had to marry my ex just to see my kids. That's why I got married, was to see my kids. It wasn't because I was in love, because it was an opportunity for me to see my kids. It was the wrong decision. And I can't say I regret it, because we did have more kids, and I don't regret them. But no matter, I was constantly alienated. I was constantly trying to go through the courts. The courts were so full and packed, and you only get a chance once a month in the courts to see your kids. And the courts could be packed, and you can be told to wait till next month, you know. And it drains you, and it drains you, and it drains you, you know. And I came to such a point that my ex was in a bit of trouble. And I says, okay, you can come and stay in my place, you know. But it wasn't working out. She had some problems of her own, which she wasn't getting any help for. And it was a very abusive relationship. My ex has admitted in court to stabbing me. She's come behind me with plates and smashed them off my head. She's come into my room while I was asleep and punched me in the face. That's just a few things, you know. But the one night we were arguing, she came into my room, she hit me in the face. She did it while the kids were asleep. And I rang the guards and I said, look, she's just after coming in to my room. She's after hitting me in the face. I says, I can't do this anymore. I says, I need her removed. And the guard said to me, where's the kids? I says, they're in bed. Well, we won't come up. I was like, what? I was like, if I was after hitting her, you'd be up here tearing me over and I'd be in court first thing in the morning for assault. But this is how they dealt with it. So the next morning, you know, I woke up, things were still bad. I was trying to tell her, I was like, look, I can't live with you anymore, I need you to leave. And she says, I'm not leaving your house. You can leave. This is my house now. Right? This is what I couldn't believe I was hearing. And she went and she got the kids, she put the kids up in the room, and she's attacking me then behind the kids' back. And when she was attacking me, she was saying to the kids, he's attacking me. And then she was attacking me and I was trying to hold her back, and she's saying to the kids, run over to the neighbours and tell them he's killing me. And I wasn't. So I rang the guards. I need you to come, she's attacking me and I need you to take her out of the house. So the guards came and I said, look, I can't be here while all this is going on. I says, I'm gonna go away from the house and I'll come back and she'll be gone. And when I came back to the house, my house was smashed up. Every wire was cut off, every appliance. All my clothes were cut up. And she went into a refuge saying that I was beating her up. It's hard for me to do this because I'm a strong man.
You did have a court case. Yeah, tell us about that.
I did. I was building up to that because after having rid of her and being attacked, I went and I got myself a protection order in the courts, and I had joint custody at the time. We were 50-50 through the courts, but I was going for full custody this time because my kids had come to me and they said that they were staying in some caravan type of thing, and that the caravan was getting smashed up around them with my ex and her new boyfriend. And I was super concerned. I even recorded the conversation that my kid said and sent it to my solicitor. And when I was bringing my kids back on the Sunday, and I wasn't expecting it because she never kind of comes to meet with us. She normally sends somebody to meet me with the kids, but she came with her boyfriend to take the kids out. And I said, the kids are just after telling me that they've had to lock themselves in a room while windows and plates and everything is getting smashed up around them. I says, what's going on? And with that, she just went angry and attacked me and punched me straight in the face. And this was in Galway, in Duns. And she stormed off. I rang the guards. I said, look, I'm just after being attacked. I'm only in front of me kids. I says, I have to get home and get the bus. He says, come in the next morning for a statement. Monday morning, I went straight into Galway, straight up to the Garda station. I gave them the statement. On my way back, I bumped into my ex, her boyfriend and the kids. And she started shouting at me, what are you doing in Galway? What, you here to meet someone or something like that? It was just ridiculous. And I just said, I've been here to give a statement. I said it straight out. And with that, she ran straight at me with her bag and everything and started punching and slapping me. And then the boyfriend started coming in to have some. And all this was done with cameras all around me, and I knew it at the time, and I didn't even hit back once. I stood there and took it for a half an hour. It was a half an hour's beating. I had concussion after. The pictures, the guards took loads of pictures, everything after. And that was just before COVID. And I was going through all that. And we were in the courts and asked Tulsa for a report on my kids. So I had to get Tulsa involved, which I didn't want to do. I was very reluctant, but I had to. It was part of the process of, taking custody of my children. So the judge turned around and said, okay, well, because you have a protection order against her, not her against me, I had to go on to 2 hour supervised visits a week in Galway. So I was the one being punished for being beaten up, going on 2 hour visits. And then the lockdown came in. And then Tulsa rang me. And they're saying, listen, it's going to be a while before you see your kids and you're going to have to be vaccinated first. This is before there was ever even a vaccination. Tulsa said this to me. And she said, you won't be able to see your kids until you get a vaccine. That broke my heart because I haven't seen my kids since. And I couldn't do it their way anymore. I can't do it their way. And that's when I decided I'm going to make a new way. I'm not going to do it, I'm going to do it the right way, but with courage. That if my kids can't see me, I'm going to make sure that they will know that I did everything that I possibly could for their life and their future. Because she's turned them against me. And I have no control over that. The only control I have over is what I can do and how I can change me for the better. And what I have to offer my kids is what I'm doing for them right now and what I'm doing for every child in this country and for every father that's like me, because they don't deserve it. It's gone on too long. Fathers are destroyed in this country. They need help because the system is set up to destroy them. Every time I was in court, I'd always talk to the other fathers that were there. And they were all, the life was taken out of them. All they want to do was see their kids and have a life with their kids. And this pattern, it's not just me, it's everywhere. So once they told me I couldn't see my kids, the gloves were off. When you don't have your kids and you don't have your family, what have you got? What have you got? You've nothing. So I'm not afraid of losing anything. I've lost everything. There's nothing people can take off of me that I haven't already lost. And that's why I can do what I can do. Because I'm not afraid of losing things. Because I've already lost them. And I'm trying to wake people up before they end up like me. Because that's the way it is. They'll have nothing, they won't have a house to fight for. Never mind their family, who's going to be probably gone after being vaxxed up to their eyeballs. And if people don't wake up, it's going to be gone. It's so fast. It's already been taken out from underneath them. And to do this kind of line of work, you know, I first went up to the GPO, you know, to stand together. It was like, I knew everything. I felt like I had a lot to contribute. With all the study that I had done on Vatican II and in my own theology works for the Catholic Church, I felt like I was prepared to go out and fight. And be prepared to die, you know, because like, I'd be fair to die what I'm doing. Die doing what I'm doing. I don't want to die in a bed. I want to die on my feet. I want to die for my family and my country. Because I have nothing to go home to. I don't have that to go home to. And people are going to be in the same boat, and I don't think they'll handle it the way I did. You know, when this housing situation changes for people, they're in for a big reality check. When I was doing this at the start, I promised myself I'll never wear a mask, and I'll never do a PCR test, and I'll never fall into the bullshit. I'll never go along with it. I'll never pretend, you know? I always said that to myself. I'm never going to pretend with it, you know, just to get along. Because at the end, you know, I have my own illnesses. I'm a disabled person, you know. I have a broken back. I have other issues. I have asthma, you know. My breathing's not great at all. When I'm in pain, my breathing gets worse. I've every right not to wear a mask, you know. At the start, I mean, I was persecuted because I wouldn't wear a mask. Not just that time on the bus, but before. I was on plenty of buses. They wouldn't let me on the bus. Bus drivers left me stranded. I couldn't get served in places. There was one bus I got onto because I wouldn't wear a mask, and I was literally stranded. It was one of the last buses home. He made me sit in the back of the bus with my head down. He says, if your head gets up, you're off. And obviously, I just made sure I was getting to where I'm going. I was getting off. That's when I took out my camera and I started videoing him. I said, you're down there, you're treating me like a second-class citizen, making me put my head down like that. Because I wouldn't wear a mask. Get on another bus. And then everybody jumps in on you, wear a mask, and they're nearly thumping the head off you. And the bus driver's like, yeah. It was so surreal to what we were going through, you know, and you try and tell people that you're exempt. Not only that you're exempt, but the masks don't even work. You wouldn't mind if they gave you some kind of protection from something, but no. But still, I refused to wear it. And I don't know how many people were trying to say, just go along, just wear it, you won't have any trouble. I get no trouble. But they're all going along, they're all living a lie. I won't live a lie. I won't do it. I won't do it. I'm not a people pleaser. You know, I won't do something I feel is wrong to make you feel okay or safe. You know, you just got to live the truth. So when I got the bus, I was in Wexford, and my uncle had just passed away. I was very close to him. He was one of the only uncles that would come down to knock. And every time he'd come down to knock, he'd go to Moore Street to get the nicest pudding you can buy in Dublin. You can buy it on Moore Street. And every time he'd come down, he'd bring a ring of white and a ring of black for me, you know. And we were always very close, and he was big into his pigeons and stuff. But he passed away, and I couldn't even go to the funeral, you know. I couldn't even go because only a certain amount of people were there. And I didn't want to go because they were all following along with the demands, you know. They're not laws, they were demands. And I didn't want to do that, you know. So I asked the priest to have say a mass for him, and I'd done my own thing. But coming back from Wexford, after staying in a friend's place, I had no problem, you know, from Wexford to Dublin, and got the bus from Dublin to Athlone, changed from Athlone to Ballyhaunis, where I had to change in Ballyhaunis to get a bus to Knock. So I made it all the way to Ballyhaunis, which is like 5 minutes from my house. From all the way from Wexford, 5 minutes from my house. I tried to get on the bus, and he was trying to make me wear a mask. And I was like, look, I'm only 5 minutes up the road. I'm after travelling from Wexford all the way to here without no trouble at all. And he was like, you have to wear a mask. I'm exempt. I told him I was exempt, you know? And I sat on the bus and I was like, I'm not getting off the bus because I need to get home. There's no other bus bringing me home. You're not leaving me stranded, like. So he called the guards. The guards came eventually, you know, and to get on the bus, and I told them that I was exempt and that I was being harassed. And they're like, who's arresting you? And I was like, well, I'm being harassed right now. You're interfering with my journey. I haven't done anything wrong. That's my constitutional right. So they were saying, get off the bus, get off the bus. And I was like, no, I won't get off the bus. And they got off the bus and they were standing around talking, and I could see that there was kids on the bus. And I was worried about the kids because I could hear one of them coughing, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to, for the kids' sake, I'll get off the bus. So right, I said, I got off the bus. I had a bag and I actually had a flag with me as well. And I got off the bus and I said, I'm off your fucking bus. I said to the bus driver. That's the only words I said. And with that, the guards came over and grabbed me, took everything off me and handcuffed me and put me into the back of a car. Never said anything, never read me my rights, never cautioned me, never nothing like that. Put me straight into the car and drove me to Swinford Garda Station. And they left me there for 3 hours. And they charged me on a public order, 2 public order charges. One for refusing to give me name and one for abusive behaviour, which there was none of it. So they had to trump up these charges because they had no other charges. There's no laws on masks and that, like that, as everybody already knows, there's no laws. And since that time, the guards did nothing but persecute me. They were coming up to my house. I was getting, for 2 years, every week, I was getting mail in my post. Very, very suspicious looking mail with no stamp on it. And it was a typed address. They were sending me death threats. They were sending me Qurans. They were sending me messages saying they're gonna have 450 Muslims waiting for me in Galway. And I mean, it was all ridiculous. And none of it, all that never fazed me. I thought that just showed me I was doing something right. You know? I was like, right, I'll keep going. Like, nothing like that. I was like, you know, bring it on. If you're not making enemies in these times, you're not doing anything right. Because everybody now is your enemy in the government and the whole lot. So I was put through that. They tried to re-arrest me plenty of times. We were having a mass then, with traditional priests coming every 2 months to give us sacraments. And the neighbours, my lovely neighbours, just like to call the guards because I had more than 6 people in my house. It sounds really crazy saying it now, but like in another year or 2, you probably won't even be allowed to have 4 people in your house. But the fact that my neighbour rang the guards because, you know, there was a couple of cars in the garden, it was obvious there was more than 6 people there. The guards came up, they were like, you know, can you tell people to leave? I basically said, no, mind your own business, and they went away again. But they'd be driving up and down my garden all the time just to look in my window. I found a surveillance sheet then. They had me on 24-hour surveillance outside my house. I was finding their surveillance sheet, everything that I was doing, writ down, timed, everything. Tracking, activated, wrote in it and everything. They were following everything I was doing because I wouldn't wear a mask. I knew they were coming after me, you know. So the best thing I could do was just do what they're doing to me. If they're coming to my door, I'll go to their door. And I was going to Garda stations, protesting, wherever I kind of could. Because I'm not afraid of them. There's nothing they can do to us. There's nothing they can do to us to hurt us. They can take away everything, but as long as we've got God inside, there's nothing, that's where our freedom comes from, you know? Not all these man-made laws. You live with freedom. That's the way it is for me. I live with that freedom, and they can't take it. Even if they put me in, and they did put me into prison, I felt more free in ways. Because they were trying to take away something they couldn't get. They can't take it away from me, you know? The first court case, when I was told I got 2 months, and I was brought to Castlereagh prison, and the screws are in there, and they're like, would you not just go along? And I'm like, you do realise everybody out there is doing the same time as everybody in here. I'm like, you do realise you're more of a prisoner out there than I am in here, because I'm free in here. You're not, but I am. But yeah, I'm the one in handcuffs. But they don't see it. They just don't see it. They won't make the connections. I mean, like, even when I was in prison, everything was just lockdown. It was just like another lockdown. Everything is the same as a lockdown. It's a prison planet. They've used the same blueprint for a prison for lockdown. They really have, you know. Like, your house is your cell. But yeah, the first time they came up to the house, they've been up to the house so many times, they were stitching me up with warrants that meant nothing. Trying to make me pay money for bail. I was already out on bail, and they were trying to say I wasn't out on bail. So they were, and then they were giving me wrong court dates after being arrested in Dublin in a shop in Ballymun for not wearing a mask, dragged out of the shop by the guards, tortured in the cell, left in the cell in me boxer shorts. Then they tried to force test me under the CCJ, and I refused. And I won that case. But then I had advice to not go to court, to take a certain stance. And I tried to go down that route. But not only should I say that, but we had sent in letters to the clerks, to the Attorney General, to the DPP. We've been sending them letters in for months, and even letters saying that I won't be there to attend, and for the legal reasons why. And every single one of them is ignored. So I was just being steamrolled. They had to make me go down for 2 months to show the rest of the country that they were trying to mean business. So I was the example being set up for them. And they were making sure they were steamrolling me, because previously they were trying everything to catch me in all different types of things, trying to make me lose it, and through their intimidation. But through the grace of God, I kept me cool, you know, as best as I can. That first human reaction is hard to suppress, you know.